before we get into it, I just want to talk about audible.com because I love it. I do audiobooks all the time when I'm driving around LA. It's how I love to, it's my preferred way to get books in, frankly. Specifically, I want to talk to you about Neil Gaiman's The Sandman. It's coming to Audible July 15th. Now, I've put off reading this graphic novel in this series of novels because, well, I just got a lot going on. But I'm going to get it. It's in my pre-order list right now. You should think about it. If you've never used Audible, you get a free book, and you can go to our website and click the link and use that to get your free book. We do get a little on the back end, and we appreciate you for the support. So, Neil Gaiman, I would also say Norse mythology, really good book. The Audible book is actually read by Neil himself. I really appreciate how he puts his personality into the writing. A little bit funny, some new stories or new twists on the stories from the Norse world that my fantasy nerd self likes.
Welcome to the More in Common podcast. This is a place where we can explore the fact that we have more in common than that which divides us by anchoring humanity in compassionate conversation. I'm Chris Saucedo, reality TV show producer and avid listener, and I'm happy to be introducing today's show. Now remember, you can find all things More in Common at moreincommonpod.com, their episodes, merchandise, blogs, and more. Of course, if you like what you hear, give them a like in your favorite podcast app. Leave a review. It helps promote the show and get more ears on the amazing conversation. Even better, if you leave a review, we will try and read it on future shows. So share. On to today's episode. As part of 2020, A Decade if Possible, this is Season 3, A Process. Today, the guys are with Justin Caballero. Justin is a young entrepreneur trying to lead his best life. In this conversation, they'll be talking about the man he's meant to be, the daily process for managing his mindset, where his mindset came from, and the journey to starting his business. Enjoy today's amazing conversation with Justin.
I believe in the law of attraction, but you got to back it up with action. But putting that frequency out into the universe and setting the intention on, attaining your goals or, how you want to act, all of it.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Today we are with Justin Caballero. Justin, how are you today?
I'm doing great, man. How are you?
Doing fantastic. Thank you for joining us.
Happy to be here.
So just to tell you a little bit about Justin, he was born and raised in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and he went on to graduate from Ole Miss with a bachelor's degree in real estate and finance. Since graduating, he has moved on and is now a proud resident of Tampa, Florida. Justin is an entrepreneur passionate about real estate and entrepreneurship education. He is a principal in 65 Capital LLC, a real estate investing firm focused on acquiring apartment complexes throughout Florida, implementing value-add strategies, and holding for long-term wealth creation. And he serves as a founder and CEO of Social X LLC, the #1 business education and networking mastermind for young entrepreneurs. Justin is transforming the entrepreneurial education and business networking landscape by empowering entrepreneurs to make a positive impact, grow their network, scale their business, and obtain financial freedom. So basically, Justin's getting after it.
A little bit.
I
had a question, and I really want to talk about Social X. I have a lot of questions about it. But you said in the primer, our rapid fire, which we finally introduced to our audience at this point, is what keeps you going is your full potential. You want to meet the man you are meant to be.
The man you know you can be.
Have you defined who that is, and how do you consider that, like that journey and where you're going with that?
Yeah, for sure. So that's definitely multifaceted, but I read it every morning. So, there's a lot of financial stuff in there. There's family stuff in there. There's impact. There's charity given. I don't know. Do you want specifics?
Go.
If you want to share them, I mean, it's up to you.
All about what you want, what you're comfortable sharing. But we'll ask.
So, happiness is always the North Star. So that kind of goes unsaid. I won't do anything unless I'm happy doing it. As far as what I'm doing day to day, obviously there's ugly times of running a business and entrepreneurship, hard work, but happiness.
I'm sorry. I don't want to do this for everything, but happiness.
Let's like what is there real quick?
Yeah, what does that equal for you? Like you just mentioned doing hard work. Like, are there times where that's not happy, or times where it is happy because you're doing it for yourself, or how does that work for you?
That's a good question. Yeah, so happiness for me is really just being aligned in what I'm doing day in and day out. Being aligned, so what I care about, what I love to do, what I'm good at, and making a positive impact on the world through that. That's kind of where, that's my alignment, right? So that's why I'm really passionate about entrepreneur education and real estate. Real estate is a wealth vehicle for me to push entrepreneurship education. So happiness for me is number one, going after what I'm passionate about and trying to make a huge impact on the world. And just not doing things just for money, having a purpose, because I've definitely done that in the past and I've gotten burned out. And growth, right? Growth in that pursuit is really happiness for me.
Mm-hmm.
So, great question. And do you find yourself ever struggling with that on a daily basis? To your point, sometimes the grind gets in the way, and you mentioned like it's the North Star. You won't do anything you're not happy doing, and that's more on a day-to-day basis. So how do you reconcile when that might not quite align on a day when you have to do garbage stuff, right?
Yeah, I mean, I would say since I started Social X, it has not been an issue for me anymore.
So now what you're saying, like the wealth engine, while it's achieving its goal, the real goal is to make sure that it gives you something to do within Social X and driving towards
right.
that.
It's
that
like
sets that alignment.
Why do you want a lot of money? And
if
you don't have good reasons behind that, then it's kind of empty.
Yeah. Is that where some of your past burnout came?
Yeah, for sure. I was chasing the money. I was doing real estate, which I enjoyed doing, but I still was not 100%, fulfilled.
So
I freaking love this because like we're talking about this as if you've had like it like a part of me was listening to you talking. I was like, man, you sound like a captain of industry that's like been through so much. But you're a young dude, like you're a young guy, and you're saying things that like I'm just coming around to. And I mean, I think I'm somewhat young, but I'm older than you. But things that I'm just coming around to in my own career and my psyche and mentality. And that's really cool. I just want to share. Like, I think that's really cool.
Yeah,
you're already in that place. Like, that's awesome. I think it's
awesome. So bringing this, we'll put a pin in Social X because like that's where I want to go next. But we'll kind of go back. Like in all of this, the daily activity. You talk about meeting the man you are meant to be. Is that an achievable goal in your mind, or like what does that look like?
Yeah, and that's kind of a moving target, but I can tell you my targets now.
Yeah.
So this is kind of like what I call the big vision, and then I reverse engineer from 25, 10, 3, 1, down to quarterly, down to daily, every day, non-negotiables, to push me in the right direction of the big vision. So the big vision is I want to have equity in 50,000 apartment units. So I don't have to own all of them. I just want to have at least a sliver in that. I want to be personally worth $10 billion, and I want to give away $1 billion through my charities. I want to have 100 billion assets under management with 6.5 Capital, which is a trust management company specifically for real estate. I want to impact 10 million entrepreneurs, and we quantify that by anyone that buys a product, service, or gets free resources from us. I want to be happy and healthy personally and my entire family. That's very important to me. What else is on there? I'm missing like one thing. That might be it, actually.
Yeah, that's a strong list.
I mean, that's what. Do you have a period of time, or these are just like these are the
25
goals?
years.
25 years.
So that's the top, and then you distill that down.
And so, how do you distill that down? And actually, before I even ask that question, how long did it take you to establish this list? And do you review it like once a year? How do you manage it? We're big on this because we do a lot of this stuff too. Yeah.
Yeah, I read it every day. And yeah, I mean, it's definitely refined. Like for the past 3 or 4 years, I've had, I want to create wealth through apartment investing. I want a happy and healthy life, wife and family. So I've kind of had like the general idea, some of the main things. Social X was a new thing, that
a year ago.
But I have like a vision of how I want to live my life. It's the background on my screen. It's been the background on my computer since I was 16, I think. It's a house on the water with a boat and the palm trees and the pool. And what they don't have here is a basketball court, but I see the basketball court on the side.
You got the vision for it, yeah.
Yeah, and it's it's never not gonna be my background until I get the property. But it's not even as much about the property; it's the journey of going after my goals, and also I feel like myself walking around the property and just knowing that I became the person that has brought enough value to the world to acquire something cool like that.
I think you just answered this, but how would you define success? Is it that journey? Is that what you...
How would you define success? Yeah, I mean, I think success is different for everybody, right? Like some people don't give a damn about having money or anything like that. Right. They're totally happy. So I think success is, living in your personal alignment. What makes you happy? What are you good at? And can you impact the world positively through that, no matter how big of a scale or small of a scale that is for you? But I think as long as you're learning and growing and pursuing your ikigai, it's a term that I've been studying. Have y'all ever heard of that?
No.
What is it?
Ikigai?
I probably say it wrong every time. It's like ikigai. It's a Japanese word that means like reason for living, reason for being. And you should Google it after this call. But it's essentially, it's like what you're good at, what you love to do, what the world needs, what you can get paid for. And in the center of that is your ikigai. So I think, reflecting on that for you personally, for anyone personally, is super powerful.
So would you then say, if I boiled this down to kind of, as we've been saying all too often these days, the meta point, when you talk about the man you are meant to be, would you then define that man as having worked the process, like the person that is there to commit to achieving enough that you're able to then give to the most possible people to influence their lives? Like that is the boil of your, we'll call it your ikigai, right? Like, it's not about the house. It's not about, like, that's just a representation of the, like that's the visual representation of what that success actually looks like. Is that fair?
Yeah. So my why is to reach my full potential. It's to become the best version of myself and reach my full potential so that I may have the greatest positive impact on the world. That's my why that I read first thing on my morning mind right. It's what I call what I read every morning. So it starts with my why, then goes into my gratitudes, my goals, my affirmations, and then visualization of those big goals.
Go ahead, Rod.
Well, I was going to say something. This is so. I would love to get into those because it's like, I think Keith and I both have a version of that. So I'd be interested because there's a couple things you said in there. I think I would like to entertain adding to mine. The idea when you said reaching your full potential and meeting the man that you know you can be, I recently listened to a podcast with a sports psychologist or a performance coach for mainly professional and like Olympic athletes talk about this idea of persona, and the example he used was Beyonce and Sasha Fierce, and how Beyonce used Sasha Fierce to get to where she is now. And then, but she doesn't use her anymore. She stopped using Sasha Fierce years ago. And somebody else, a writer, I believe, has a quote that says, "There's no day better than the day you meet your persona." Like where you assume that persona into who you are, or you can accept it, or you can be. Like I think there's a lot of different ways that you can meet yourself. But I thought that was, when I heard that, it was very poignant, and I've been spending a lot of time defining the deltas between where I want to be and where I am. I've done it from a goal standpoint, but from a I'm doing it now more from a core values and how I want to show up, like what I feel is acceptable in conversation and day to day, like how I show up in a room, regardless of how everybody else shows up. And so this is super timely for me. So I really love this.
That's powerful, and that's really cool that you said that. I think that obviously that's a big part of it, right? It's the internal before the external. So, kind of wrapped into that is like, I've got to be better in every facet, internally to even get, something external that's so hard to achieve.
It's, I mean, it's interesting because like Rodney and I are probably a decade plus older than you, right? And it's taken us this much longer to get there and reach this point of actually discovering that, right? Like this is a continued journey for us, the alignment and understanding and where the pieces fit, and doing the things that you like to do to support the things that align to you, and how do you marry all of that together? And we're in this constant struggle, right? But you started that early. And I mean, you said you wrote this down at 16. Like, where does that come from for you? Like, how did you land on that, and how have you landed on that vision of yourself at your age?
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, so I think a lot of it is I think it's a mix of nature and nurture. So my mom, from a very young age, brainwashed me into
don't they all?
Yeah. So she just brainwashed me into believing, like, at the core of me, that I can be and I can do whatever I set my mind to. So I think that's extremely important to instill into your children and to anybody, really. So I just started, after someone tells you something enough, you start to kind of believe it, whether it's good or bad.
Especially when you're developing. Yeah,
for sure.
If people keep saying that you suck, then you're going to start thinking that you suck. If people keep telling you you're great, then you're going to think you're great. Or if people keep telling you you can be whoever you want to be, and you need to decide that, you start to think on that a lot, right? And it was that mixed with watching my dad work really hard, and just kind of be a businessman. So I've always known I wanted to be a quote unquote businessman. And then my mom, the other side. So my dad kind of showed me the route of, hard work, dedication, what people say behind your back about you is important, as far as, don't do anything to tarnish your name. So all of that, I think, is kind of the nature part of it. Or sorry, the nurture part. The nature, I don't know. Maybe it's because the nurture, but I just feel like I got all of these all the time. I feel like I just got a fire inside of me. It's like I gotta go. I gotta do something. I don't know.
What is your voice like in your head? Like, as you're accomplishing, earlier you said, I have to be better. And Dada's voice, for me, I ask this because my voice to probably this point in my life has been a very, very hard on myself.
very
much
in a limiting.
You got to be, like it's been good to a point, but it's been limiting beyond that for me, where it's been almost the like no, that was horrible. Like you got to do better. You just fucked up. Like do better. Kind of something that I wouldn't say to you if you were on my team, or Keith is on my team. I wouldn't say to him. What's your voice like at this point in your journey?
So I think I kind of brainwashed myself too, right? With my affirmations, my gratitudes, and all that. So I kind of just try to download the thoughts that I want, and I cut out anything that I think is poisonous to my thoughts. So like I don't watch the news, I don't really follow politics or anything like that. I don't watch TV besides the Saints, probably 10 games out of the season.
Except when they get screwed in the playoffs every year.
Exactly. I probably should just stop watching during the playoffs. Probably me.
A note to every Saints fan, like I root for you too. Like just in a spiritual, we're Purdue Boilermakers. We love Drew Brees, right? Like, but man.
Oh man, it's tough.
Don't watch the playoffs.
God, there's like. Keep going. There's a couple things you just said that I actually want to come back to, but keep going.
Yeah, so I mean, it's my thoughts are mostly positive. And it's because I read what I want to download into my subconscious, right? I think that brainwashing yourself has a lot to do with your subconscious. You have, I don't know the exact numbers. I'm sure y'all may know, but you can think at a high rate, but your subconscious is actually processing like 100.
You can process 11 million thoughts. 11 million thoughts in a second is subconscious.
Subconsciously.
You only process 70 consciously.
40 consciously.
Sorry.
I believe in that 110%. And after I started doing this My Morning Mind Right stuff, I just started to, over time, you start to attract the things that you want. And maybe it's because you're talking about them and just passing conversations or whatever, but I think you're starting to attract them. I believe in the law of attraction, but you got to back it up with action. But putting that frequency out into the universe and setting the intention on, attaining your goals or, how you want to act and all of that.
Let's talk about your My Morning Mind Right, because this is interesting. So gratitude, affirmation, intention. So how does that work for you? What do you do? Is this the first thing you do in the morning? Is it after a workout? What's the setup?
Yeah, it's after a workout. It's not the very first thing I do. So my morning routine is wake up at 6, eat something just light like an apple, go hit the gym, come back, shower, eat full breakfast. And then I do My Morning Mind Right and a meditation, then I go to work.
What does your My Morning Mind Right look like?
Yeah, so the first thing is my why. Then
do you read it? Do you write it?
I just read it.
Okay.
I actually wrote it today because I was like, I haven't written this down in a while. But usually I just read it. I'll put it on my phone.
Yeah.
And I was using the Evernote app. Now I just have it on Google Sheets because I got check boxes now. so I wanted to check boxes. Yeah, so it's definitely evolved over the past, few years. I think I started it probably, like 4 years ago.
So it starts with your why.
Yeah, so why, then gratitudes, goals for the month.
How do you look at gratitude? Like, would you just write out things from the previous day, or what's that?
No, it's the same stuff. I mean, I'll edit it a little bit. I, start with my family and I write out my family members, or all my family members are written out. Friends that I support and support me, new friends that I'm building relationships with, and I'll actually write out their names to be intentional with the relationships. And that list has gotten a lot smaller.
The friends list?
Yeah. I mean, you only have so much time, right? And I think I've just gotten a lot better at realizing what friendships are real, and the friendships that I want to have forever, right?
Sure.
Going into my health, grateful for my health, grateful that I live in America, simple things. I live in a city, live in Tampa, beautiful city. I have about 10 that I go through.
So kind of like to your point earlier, just like keeping that positive stuff at the front of your mind, starting with that gratitude.
Yeah.
And what'd you say was after gratitude?
My monthly goals, so financial and health. So try to work out 5 times a week, run 3 times a week. So I like have check boxes. That's the check boxes that I added for each day.
It's good.
And then I'll have like weight goals as far as how much I'm bench pressing, squatting, all that stuff. Take that up a little bit. So then I go into my affirmations, and then what good I'm doing in the world today. And then I go into visualization.
Affirmations, sorry, go ahead. No, go ahead.
So I have my big vision goal, so 25-year plus, and then I have my yearly, and then I go into the visualization of that.
On your affirmations, real quick, what does affirmation mean for you? Then there's a couple different ways to do it.
Well, it's all present tense. So I am, I am getting 1% better every day. I am leaving a positive impact on people.
Are these things you just say to yourself? Are you looking in a mirror? Do you have I can't remember what the beads are called. Like some people have like affirmation beads. Like what's your actual procedure for it?
No, I don't look in the mirror or
them?
anything like that. Yeah, just reading them.
Yeah, cool.
Now, how long, and I think this is critical, how long does it take you to do this every morning? Because listing it off to somebody else, it sounds, oh my God, I don't have this amount of time to do that stuff,
yeah,
right?
It's like 7 to 10 minutes. Yeah. It's not long.
Because
it gets me in the right mind frame, the mindset. Gets my mind right.
we talk about this a lot. Our daily journaling practice, something very similar, right? Like for me, it's what's my personal philosophy. It's just to remind myself, do the right thing. I am is one of those things that is different for everybody, but what is it for me? It's I am here, I am present, and I am in the moment. And then it's best from yesterday. So that's my thing of gratitude. Like, what was the best thing from yesterday? And then what's cool about it, you can go back and look, and it ticks off some cool memories. And then I go through 2 columns. I have a vision, which is body, being, personal, and business. So body is every single day, it's the same thing. I want to achieve 7% body fat, and I want to feel my pulse in every single moment, which is probably a lot harder than 7% body fat, if you believe it. And then it's in being, it's really about being present, being focused, being attentive to all the things that I care about. But then personal and business, they're about the same, so it's very similar. And then on the right, I do function. Like, what am I actually going to do to achieve these things each and every day? And what's interesting that you say the brainwashing component, because Rodney got me onto this journaling, and it really is, it's just like this anchor to the person you want to be, right? It's like this anchor, and it keeps you, and you're looking at it. Like, I look at mine all the time because I got my checklist on there, and it's like, okay, it's a good reminder. But I said to Rodney right before this conversation, I'm like, you know what? If anybody were ever going to ask me a life hack, like my life hack would be start a business, not to make money, but just to have someone where you establish principles of the business, and those principles are the things that you want to live by. And just tell yourself and remind yourself and talk about it over and over again. Because one of the best things from both this podcast and the other things that we're doing from a culture consulting standpoint, it's like all of the things that we talk about and do, it's like it permeates everything else that you end up wanting to do, and you're like, man, I am not living.
I'm not there.
I'm not and I'm constantly battling on the regular about, it's like, oh, I'm missing. I got to keep getting better and and it gives me that, like you said, that North Star. So I love the way you frame it, and the way you talk about it. It's great.
Yeah,
that's awesome. That's really, I'm glad that you guys do that, because even if I don't hit all my goals, I know I'm going to be a lot closer than if I wasn't focusing on it. I read something, I can't remember where I listened to it, on a podcast or something, but they did a case study, and basically the people, I think they were in high school, say they had a sample size of 100 people, right? basically is, do you write down your goals or do you not write down your goals?
Mm.
So it was 83% of people did not write down their goals, and then it was 13% wrote them down, or had goals. They're just talking about setting goals, not even writing them down every day. And then there was 3% that made goals, but there were specific goals too. They weren't just like, I want to be a better basketball player. It was
right.
like, I want to shoot 90% free throws or whatever. The 3% that had specific goals made 10 times more in income 10 years later. They went back and interviewed them 10 years later. The 13% made, it was either 2 or 3x than the baseline of the 83%. Obviously,
I believe it.
Quantify.
Yeah.
So that's what they quantified it off of, but I'm sure they're probably a lot happier too, if I had to guess.
Well, and I mean,
totally
from my
agree
own
with that, yeah.
personal anecdotal experience, like I've noticed, for instance, like I play soccer, I play basketball, and the days when I perform the best, like I'm not a stellar soccer player or a basketball player, but the days where I score goals playing soccer, or I am most effective as a teammate in either sport, are the days when I go in with a clear goal. And usually my goal is don't turn the ball over. Like just have a goal, like take care of the ball. Like if I start with that, everything else works. But if I go in like, yo, I'm gonna score 20 in this game, or I'm gonna score 3 goals, then I'm focused on the wrong thing, and then I end up having turnovers. People are like, what the hell are you doing, Campbell? Yeah. Like, and it's weird because for me, Keith knows, like one of my personality traits is I'm flexible. Like I do a lot of things. I can do a lot of things. And where it hurt me in the past is like when somebody says, well, set a specific goal. I'm like, well, I don't have just one thing I want to accomplish. And it's like, no, that's not what you're saying. It's like focus on one thing. And it's gonna it's gonna amplify everything else. Like get the bases right, and then everything else is gonna be so much better as a result. So I can see why having a goal like a 25-year goal and having a weekly or a daily like incremental that you can look back on. And I think this is another thing that prevents people from actually doing this exercise is I don't want to look at the end of the week and look at my journal and see that I only accomplished 25% or 12% of the things I wrote down. And it's like, but that's okay. It's like, then you can realistically evaluate what happened in my week. Did I set too many goals? Were they not things I actually care about? And I think it goes back to that question I asked you a little bit on what's your self-talk? Like, what's the frame of mind that you're evaluating yourself with? Are you beating yourself up, or are you making room for yourself and saying, hey, like, I can get better and I'm striving to get better. There's nothing wrong with me that I didn't get them done. I just got to make some adjustments. So,
there's this, to that anchor point. We define, I don't want to say we label. So, our principles, our corporate principles, we've changed how we label them to fundamentals. Like we're sports people. So, always trying not to use sports analogies, but it's whether it's dance or whatever it might be, like those fundamental things that you build around that say, when all else is exhausted, these are going to work. Focusing on those, it's that daisy chain that ultimately allows you to then, do a diving catch or, do a jump and spin or, that extra flip because you focus on those fundamentals. So, yeah, it's good. I have to go ahead, Rod.
I was going to say, I was going to change topic.
So was I.
You said you don't watch the news.
Question. Oh, you're going a different direction.
Yeah. You said you don't watch the news. And it caught my ear. I had to bring it up because I also don't watch the news.
Yeah.
But why for you? Like people love to question me about this, by the way. It's like they're like, what, do you live in a hole? Like how do you operate? How do you live? How do you wake up in the morning, bro?
A lot more positively.
Yeah,
man,
no doubt.
The news destroys my psyche, bro. Like I'm just
dude, it's garbage. It's poisoning your mind, man. It's so negative.
Yeah.
So negative. I mean, it's this person got killed, Trump did this, blah blah blah. Like, man.
Do you find that you still and do you find that you still get the pieces of information that you need, like when something big's going on?
Yeah, and no one stopped talking about it. So it's like,
right.
yeah, I mean, I will turn it off in the gym if it's on. I will turn it off.
It's interesting.
Oh, really?
Anywhere in the room.
Oh, really?
You just don't even want. You don't want
to
that
see it.
energy.
You're going back to your subconscious thing, man.
Right.
It's like even if you see out the corner of your eye, it's affecting you.
Yeah.
It's something because I watch the news. Like I am a news junkie in some ways, but I've learned to realize when it's affecting me. So I'll go weeks or 2 weeks, and I'm just like, nope, it's not happening today.
Yeah.
I'll get my basic downloads of the quick things that I want, but and then I'll go like the last 2 weeks. It's like I've been all up in it, paying attention, and it hasn't affected me. And I think part of it is just depending on how busy I am. But no, I totally.
I'm actually considering starting to implement some. I read a book recently that's challenged my viewpoint on it. It was some like sci-fi book, but a character was talking to another character, and they're like, you putting your head under a rock isn't necessarily helping other people. It might be helping you, but it might not be helping other people. And I was like, like with what my mission is and what I'm trying to do, like maybe I can help other people through the things, and it's maybe taking an approach kind of like Keith might work for me, where I'm like checking in, checking out, like checking in with myself to see, is this affecting me too much? But I have not fully formed this thought yet. I'm trying to decide, because I think sometimes the selfish thing, like I think I have to start with a thing that is going to be good for my well-being, and then I can help other people. And I'm trying to decide whether or not I can reintroduce news, and if that will actually allow me to help others more or not. But it was something that caught me when you brought up news.
And I wish I could. It's because I haven't figured out how to effectively get those tidbits of important information without getting all the sensational headlines.
The filter, right?
And, they
the clickbait.
They get paid off of that, right?
Yeah.
So if you understand, the more outrageous it is, whether it's true or not, they're getting paid from it. It's just tough. I found it tough to filter what's real and what's not real, because everyone's got an agenda, right? But one of the things for me is I also want to like help Tampa grow into a city that is even a better version of what it is now, like up to a national scale, to where people are like, yeah, Tampa's a great place to live, work, and play. And I want to really help push the entrepreneur community here. So trying to get my hands a little dirty in that aspects. But if I want to be like a influential, positive leader in Tampa, I feel like I got to know what's going on in the politics scene
to some degree,
and just the news in general. So that's something that I got to figure out.
And I'll tell you, from a news consumption standpoint, what I've taken out is I hardly read news, because it's unless it, like, occasionally I'll pull up and it'll just be, this is what happened, and you can really tell right from the beginning of an article of whether they're going to tell you this is what happened versus I'm going to give all kinds of adjectives to help describe how I feel it happened.
Hyperbole.
And I just keep it very, very focused on a few different networks. And I don't watch CNN, I don't watch MSNBC, I don't watch the Fox News Network. Like, all of the sensational components. So
where do you go?
My news routine is in the morning. I listen to the NPR Daily News, which I think is limiting because it's only 15 minutes long, but they give you kind of the big highlights. I do listen to their politics podcast as well, because I find it covers what I need. I'll go to the New York Times Daily. They highlight a big story, and I think they do overall a pretty good job. And then PBS NewsHour is my general news consumption at night. So just pop on PBS, and I think it's probably the most balanced and most fact-based news delivery. There's not a whole lot. There's no yelling ever, right? And no sensationalism. And they pull in people from all over the place to my favorite part about them is they'll put two people next to each other, one from one part of the argument, one from the other, and say, go at it. And not go at it, but like they just ask questions and let them answer versus it being some screaming, shouting match. Yeah. So I want to ask you, you said something about, we talk a lot about background. You grew up in Baton Rouge, right? Like you had an example of your dad being a businessman, and then you talk about your mom brainwashing you. So 2 questions in that. Like, was your dad like constantly working? Was he active? Like, what was that relationship and dynamic like for you from an example standpoint? And then 2, like, what did your mom do to brainwash you? Like, how did she brainwash you in believing the things that you believe?
Yeah, so my dad worked really hard, but we had a very, very good relationship. You know, he's at all my sports games. You know, he definitely didn't let work overtake being a good dad. So hats off to him for doing that. Awesome. And it's tough when you're running a business too. I could see, you know, it's like, I don't have a girlfriend right now because like I don't even know if I'd have time for a girlfriend right now. At least that's what I've been telling myself. My mind's starting to kind of shift back to that. But you know,
did you ever ask him how he balanced that?
No, but that would be a really good question to ask him, honestly, and I'm going to.
I love it.
Yeah, I think he's very, because I've worked with him. You know, we started Total Property Solutions together 3 years ago, and just watching him and how he operated was extremely beneficial to helping me improve as a leader and as a businessman. He's very, very efficient and effective, and he just gets straight to it. Don't bother me. I got these 12 things I'm about to knock out, and then we can talk after. So yeah, I mean, he just did a good job. I guess, you know, got people to. He worked hard at making sure that he didn't have to work in the business, and he was consistently just working on the business. So I think that probably had a lot to do with it. Put people in the right seats and let them row, you know?
Yeah.
And then switching gears to as far as, and he always worked because he wanted to provide a better life than he had for his kids. So like that was his why. So if you're working really hard, but then you don't get to hang out with your kids, then that would be counterproductive for his goal.
They'd be out of alignment.
Right.
Yeah.
Would you say, like you said, he hits his 12 points, so he prioritizes his things, but then when he's with you, he's focused and attentive. Like his mind wasn't always, like he got what he needed to get done, so now he can be present with his family.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. He'd say no phones at dinner, stuff like that. So he was intentional with how he was spending his time.
It's so critical. We talk a lot about that.
I've done really bad at that in my previous relationship. I would let that spill into personal life way too much. The next time, but now I know, like I failed in that department before, and now I know going in, you know, into the future, put the phone away. You know, you can respond. You could respond in an hour, 2 hours. It's not gonna.
Yeah, it'll be there.
And that also may be an indicator of importance. Like maybe you weren't in the right place. I don't know. Like I don't know the situation. We don't have to go into it, but like maybe you just literally weren't in the right place because you weren't pulled naturally away from this. And sometimes it has to be an intentional thing, but I think with relationships, sometimes like when my daughter comes home at the end of the day, like I don't have to, like I'll be in the middle of an email unless it's like, this has to be out 10 minutes ago. Like, sure, I'll finish it. But most of the time it's like, this can go out in 3 hours when she goes to bed. I'm just going to walk out the door, kind of a scenario.
Yeah. It's something we talk a lot about, intentionality and our priorities. Like, you know, when you're there, be there, whatever that is, and then, you know, let the other things be until you're ready to get back to them. But no, that's awesome.
Yeah, I thought that was cool when you were talking about your being earlier. You know, that's kind of one of the things that you review in your morning routine.
Yeah.
Is, you know, I'm here now.
Yeah.
I think that's powerful.
Eckhart Tolle. Power
now.
Now.
Being is a big focus for me as well. I'm really trying to refocus on it this year. For me, it's the spirituality component of it. There's a presence component. It's kind of just mind, body, soul, like trying to get them all in alignment and balance, not trying to over-index on just one for me. So you mentioned you work with your. Oh yeah,
Right.
it was. Oh yeah, we forgot mom.
Close that. Yeah, and then
mom. So, I mean, it would just be kind of offhand. I'd be playing basketball with her. My mom really loved sports. She was really, really good. She's actually the one who taught me how to play football, basketball.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, my dad's not athletic at all. Well, I mean, he's actually a decent athlete. I guess he just never worked that because he started working at a young age, so like that consumed a lot of his time, I guess. But my mom is like a phenomenal athlete, and she like told me I could go to the NBA. I was like, no. She was like, no, you could. So I guess that's kind of how it started, and then just with anything, she would just, you can literally be whoever you want to be. You just gotta, put your mind to it.
And,
that's awesome.
It's like it's such a component of parenting. Like I think back on, and I think about like people who are in the position that they're in, and I see that parallel of belief, right? That the parent just had belief. It's like, okay, it's good for you to have belief in yourself, but what you're really doing as a parent is saying, listen, it's okay to believe in yourself because I got you. Like I believe in you too, right? And like there's no more powerful influence, in my opinion, than a parent who truly believes in their kid and expresses it over and over and over and over again. I think you're a walking example. I mean,
and everybody needs somebody. Like for some people, it's not a parent. Sometimes it's a coach. Fair, it's an aunt. For me, it was an aunt early on. I mean, my parents believed in me for sure, but the way the message resonated most for me was with my aunt. Like she's just my person. Like vibes. You want to talk about energy? Like it was just the way we vibe.
And what did she tell you that was impactful?
Man, it wasn't even just a telling. It was just like the way she showed up with me. I kind of would think about it like what I've heard about you say about your dad. I don't know if you feel this way, but like she just modeled the things that I care about. Like she was there. She showed up. She showed me how to be a kind person and how to be loving, and mainly just by just doing it and like taking time out of her busy schedule to take care of me or my brother and sister. And I remember the first time I had one of those like who's your hero things, like write out, and it's like, oh, Wolverine, blah blah blah, and I was like, my aunt. Like, that's awesome. She's, and to this day, like she still remains just a big-hearted individual, and just something I aspire to. But yeah, I think, but I've had iterations of that through mentors and coaches and through friends and through people like you that I meet that just like inspire me to think more about who I am and who I want to be. And they're man, that incongruence between those two, like living who you are. Keith and I were talking before this, like humans, I think one of the most powerful things is whoever you believe you are, you will be. Mm-hmm. If you believe you're a failure, you will be a failure.
The man who believes he's right and the man who believes he's wrong, they're both right, or whatever.
They're both right. Yeah.
Yep.
Something. So to Keith's kind of point about your mom and dad, like kind of going into your business, like you started a business with your dad. You have some real estate ventures on your own. You got Social X. Like, kind of walk us through that journey a little bit as to because I really your maturation as a businessman, because that's been a goal for you in your life.
I mean, adding to that for the thought is like you've built successful businesses, but you really found your alignment with Social X, and I'm curious to understand how you came about that and why that is your alignment.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess I'll start with my maturation as a businessman. From a young age, I've always had kind of the entrepreneurial itch, lemonade stands, flipping stuff to kids in the neighborhood, stuff like that. Got into different little business ventures in college, nothing too serious. And then, I always kind of just learned from my dad. As far as on the real estate side of things, in the summers and stuff, would work with him or for him. And then I started working for a student housing real estate developer in college. He had a big impact on me, just seeing that he was able to, just watching how he operated his business, both my dad and my old boss Pat. Just so helpful, and it also taught me it's like these guys are really good, they're really successful, but they're not superheroes. They're not anybody, super extraordinary they're just normal people, and they're just working hard every day. So that was really cool to see.
So it showed you it was possible for you?
Yeah, it shows you that's possible. And
we have the tendency to anoint people who have achieved success, like they have some innate quality that says, I am successful, right? And it's like, well, that's for them. That's not for me, right?
Yeah. Why is that? Like, why didn't you anoint them? Is it because you got to see their winnings and their success and their failure, or like, what is it? Yeah,
I think it's these are just normal humans, and I've met people that are billionaires or worth hundreds of millions and sat down in the same meetings and stuff with them, and they're just regular people. The most successful people that I've seen are they're very smart, they're very sharp, but the biggest quality that sets them apart, in my opinion, is not how smart they are, but just how driven they are. They're like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to make it happen. They're very confident in themselves, and they have the belief that they can get it done. And I think that at the end of the day, that's the biggest thing. And yeah, with my old boss Pat and my dad, I saw things that they did really well, and then I saw other areas that they were doing bad in. So seeing both sides is important too. I think just so that it's possible. After college, went and started. I was working for the student housing developer again for a year after college, and then I moved to Tampa 3 years ago. Started Total Property Solutions with my dad. We grew that business quickly. We went from $0 to $10 million in 2 years. And yeah, it was crazy. So just working with my dad and building that business just taught me so much, because we started at the kitchen table, and I got to literally go through every facet of the business and build it out. So I just learned how to do learned so much from my dad. And then about a year ago, we lost 2 really big clients that made up like 70 to 80% of the business. So man, we scaled to 15 people, and then we had to lay off a bunch, and that was very, very difficult. Yeah. Just laying off people, you kind of feel like a failure. And then it was around that time where I started, I was happy because I was building a business, but I wasn't like fulfilled. And that's when we lost those 2 big clients. I was like, all right, we're not shutting down the doors, right? Like, we still are making, we could run this business and still make good money, although it's not at the level that we want it to be right now. We could still build this thing back up. But I was like, I just didn't feel it in me to want to go rebuild what we had just built. It was because it's so difficult to run a business of that size, and if you don't really love to do it, it's just so many headaches. Especially the real estate renovation business. There's always something going wrong with construction.
Sure.
So then I did what I call deep work, and I actually made a little worksheet on this called the deep work worksheet. And it's essentially all the different exercises that I did over a few month time period to really dig deep inside myself and figure out what's going to make me happy. I wanted to build something that not only would be a great vehicle for money, but also could have a positive impact on others. And really, what we're building at Social X is what I wish I had when I was first getting started in business. Just everything that you need to be a successful entrepreneur from our points of view. So that's really what I'm building this course for. This, I don't want to call it a course, it's not a course. This whole program and mastermind is everything that you need to be a successful entrepreneur, and me and my team's eyes.
That's awesome.
Now, what made you, so not only that, but like, when did you start 6'5 Capital?
Yep, so 6'5 Capital was just a few months ago,
okay.
It has pretty drastically changed within the past month. So me and my business partner, Sterling Perkins, and I met Sterling through Social X. So he came.
Huh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool how we met. So his fiance, China, was throwing an event Friday the same weekend that I was throwing our first Social X event in Tampa, which was a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday event. We decided to team up Friday. So she really did all the work. Friday did a great job. Basically had like all these local artists, music, cocktails, basically just showing the best of Tampa Bay, which was really cool. So anyways, we teamed up. We just started building a good relationship. And I was posting on my Instagram story that I was reading this book over here on multifamily real estate. So we started going to lunch together, talking more about real estate and stuff. And we decided to team up and started looking for multifamily properties to invest in. And then about a month ago, so his grandfather, mega wealthy, owns tons of apartment complexes. And we're actually taking over the trust management of his portfolio. We're going to reposition them from New Jersey to Florida.
Wow. That's
cool.
That's a big shift. What what's your relationship to the business with your dad? And like, I know I double question a lot, but you talked about feeling like a failure.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and you did all, like, what did that actually do to you in relation to your alignment to the business that was in, and like, how'd you come out of that? Obviously you did months of deep work, but like, what is that?
Yeah, for sure. So basically on Thanksgiving of last year was when
last year, 2018 or 2019?
Was it 2018.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's when I sat down and I wrote my eulogy, I wrote my autobiography, and I did something called the 5 Wishes Worksheet, which was basically like, if I died today, what would I regret? And then you flip and you say, I'm actually going to take action on this stuff now. So one of the things I wrote down was, I'm not following all my passion projects. So I was like, I don't really know what that means. I just know that I'm not going after all my passions. So I was like, all right, shit, I got to figure out what my passions are, right? So then I wrote like a 2 to 3 page autobiography, and I just circled the things where I was most energized, most happy. So I believe, everybody's kind of got their own things that make them happy and energized. It's unique for everybody. And the overlapping of those things, you can build your passion around, right? So I was like, all right, I'm going to figure out what my passions are, and then I'm going to attack these things. And what I realized is, man, I just love getting people together. I've always been like the social chair of whatever organization I'm in. So I know I love getting people together, and I love personal development, and I love business. So how do I tie all these things together? It's like, well, let's have a big event in Tampa based around all this.
I love
So
it.
that was the inception. Over the next couple of weeks, so basically I wrote out my autobiography, kind of circled, and that's what I came up with. And
where did you come up with this exercise, by the way? Did you learn from somewhere?
Yeah, one of my mentors, Brody Kern, gave me something called the 5 Wishes Worksheet.
Okay.
So he's been like a personal development, self-mastery mentor for me. Great guy. He's actually coming over. We're doing some business consulting for him tomorrow. So he's flying in Tampa for that.
That's cool.
Yep. So, and then the eulogy I got from, what is that book? 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Mm-hmm.
I've done that 2 or 3 times. And then the autobiography, I was just like, I got to figure out what I like. So I don't know. I kind of came up with that one on my own, I think. Just started writing from the first thing I could remember.
Yeah.
And kind of just circled the points where I felt most energized.
That's really cool. I like that idea.
Talk about.
Yeah.
Just kind of went down a little rabbit hole, but yeah, that's how it happened.
No, you're good.
Where did you break from the business with your dad at that point? Decide to go full in Social X, or?
Yeah. So after I did those exercises, the next couple of weeks, I was like, I got to figure out what I'm going to do with this knowledge of this is what I love to do, which I kind of already knew, but it's like I identified it. I was like, all right, these are the things, like this is what I got to focus on. So I kept running Total Property Solutions for like the next 6 months. And then about 6 months ago, I went full-time Social X, and a few months ago started spending just a few hours a week, 165 Capital, but about to, within the next month or so, kind of flip that and spend most of my time with 65 Capital. I just hired a few more people for Social X and spend like 5 to 10 hours a week on Social X. A couple high-level meetings, hiring, firing, stuff of that nature. Just making sure that the right team is in place and empowering them to do their thing.
Oh God, we can go into that if we had time.
Yeah.
What's the right team? God, that's a very important conversation to a lot of things that we do. But yeah.
Do you have any hesitations? I'm assuming not at this point, but have you ever had to get over relinquishing control or power to other people to do things on your behalf? Or has that always been something you've been okay with?
I think it's something that I've been okay with because I know that's what it takes to build a substantial business.
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe you can be an online marketer or something and it just be like a one-man show, but I don't think that's very common.
Yeah. No, it's not. You still need other people.
Yeah, man.
We always need other people.
Why would you want to do that?
We're social animals. We need people. But then actually to scale, you actually need people. But it's
so here's the deal. We're running up on time. This has been
amazing,
fun and awesome conversation. It's great to get to know you, Justin.
Likewise. But
we always wrap with one final question from your good sir Rodney.
Yeah. What? That's a good setup. Caught me off guard.
I'm trying to get better at it.
Yeah, man. I'll just say before I ask it, thank you. Like, man, like I just love these conversations. Like, this is as much as we're doing this for other people and like for our guests and you, like we bring on. Like, I get so much out of this.
Like I mean, they say you teach what you need the most, right? Like it's similar to Social X, right? Like you want to teach people what you need or needed, right? Like at the end of the day.
For sure.
Yeah.
No, I mean, that's a great point. Part of the reason I created Social X was also for me. It's like how to reach up and learn from these super high level entrepreneurs that we bring in to help us teach.
Yeah.
How do I reach up?
It's more about collecting the best information from people that are 50, 100 times more successful than me or anybody on my team is.
So the last question, what would you leave our listeners with to ponder on, to think about? Like, what do you want to leave them with?
Man, I think the biggest thing would be, do the deep work. Like if you're not aligned and you're not waking up happy and excited, if you're not happy to start, getting after it on a Monday morning, do the deep work. And it can definitely be a long process and it's not easy and it takes a lot of thought and it does take a lot of energy. So I think that's why people don't do it. Because it's not just like that's the answer. You got to dig deep, and man, if you can identify what's going to make you happy, and then go after that, I think that's the most important thing anyone could ever do for themselves.